Ahoy there! Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another developer Q&A video for Eve Echoes. Each week, the developers of Eve Echoes, NetEase, take 4 questions posed by the community and then respond to them, posting the answers to both the official Eve Echoes Twitter account and Facebook page. Now, I know that not everybody has access to Facebook or Twitter, or wants access to Facebook or Twitter, and sometimes even those who do don't want to connect with a video game in front of their friends and family. There's multiple reasons. So each week, I go through the questions, I read the responses, and I give my own personal thoughts and opinions on how that would affect things, and if I think it's the right answer, if there is such a thing as a right answer. Now, of course, these are just my personal opinions. You may have your own as well, and I would love to hear them politely in the comment section down below. I love having a chat with you guys to get a feel of what you're looking for in Eve Echoes, what you're looking to get out of the game. Now, I say that the developers normally put out 4 questions. This week, they've actually only put out 3, and you'll be glad to know that I'm not going to be going on some rant against some poor person asking a question unexpectedly, simply because I disagree with them. This week, if I go on a rant at all, it's going to be directly at the developers, because, oh boy, I'm kind of disappointed with some of the responses here, but hey, let's jump right in and have a look at the developer Q&A for the week of the 17th to 23rd of November. Our first question then. In the tutorial and the skill tree, you split the focus of most capsuleers to military, industry, and trade. While fighting and building has gotten a lot of love, I feel like trade-focused players are being overlooked. Are there any plans to broaden trade skills, i.e. null-sec market, regional buy and sell orders, or other options? Now, I'll be completely honest, I kind of get the feeling that one of the main reasons there's not really much in the way of trade skills is because there aren't many trade players. Now, that could be a catch-22, that there aren't many trade skills because there aren't many trade players, and there aren't many trade players because there aren't many trade skills, or anything to make it remotely interesting. Now, I've said before that this would be a great way, I feel, of sort of helping both hauling and indeed mining. Because you could easily have different systems in space, heck, different regions even if you want to keep it a little bit simpler, different ITCs or regional stations that are looking to buy particular ores for a certain price. So you could buy ores from, say, Jita, sell them down to Amar, and sell them for a profit, or various things like that. That would actually add meaningful ore sink as well, which would increase the price of ore and thus make mining a more viable industry for new players. Because yeah, you can sit there and say, oh, I want a coveter, I want a procurer, a porpoise or an orca. Obviously the coveter's already out. Once you're in a coveter and you're already strip mining everything, there's no real purpose to having anything more. Having a porpoise or an orca is just going to devalue ore faster, and if you're a new player trying to get involved in this, heck, I jumped into a new character recently, created a whole new character, skilled him purely into industry and mining, and I cannot cut a profit. Just at this point in time, at tech level 5 now, flying ventures and things like that, just you can't do anything, so it's no wonder that people aren't mining. But hey, we're talking about trade here, and I do think having more regional buy and sell orders and stuff like that would be useful. We've seen a couple of sort of hints at this kind of thing recently with Amar getting lower taxes. Amar both times has kind of annoyed me, but hey, there we go. I would like to see, I've mentioned this before, that the different regions, different ITCs and the regions around them have different rules for different gear. If you're out in, for example, Everyshore, then the systems and stations there should have lower taxes if you're selling railguns or drones or armor repairers and things like that. If you're up in Caldari space, like you're around the Forge, the stations there should have a lower tax on things like railguns, missiles, and shield boosters. And this should kind of go across the board to the different stations and give you an idea of what kind of loot you should be on. Because then there's a reason to actually travel between those different points. There's a reason to buy, sell, and trade at different prices. I do feel that the trade game in Eve Echoes right now is pretty naff, and it's not just due to lack of skills. But anyway, Lance says, thanks for your advice, but we're sorry there's no plan to broaden trade skills in the short term. Currently, item exchange, corporation hangar, and contract are more prevailing mechanics in nullsec, thus developing market-related functions is not included in our plan for the time being, and I get that. I really get that. I think adding ITCs, which was a plan originally, they talked a lot, NetEase, and before Eve Echoes launched, about like alliances and corporations actually being able to build their own trade centres in nullsec, and whilst that seemed a pretty cool idea, it's clear that looking back on it now, that really wouldn't do much. You would basically have an internal market for your own corporation, and That in itself, I think, is okay. That could be an interesting side of things to do, to have a station in the middle of your nullsec alliance that you can buy and sell and trade with your own alliance. That could be interesting, but it's a niche thing at best, and most people are getting on with that using Discord things like, buy and trade channels in their alliance's Discord. Using things like the corporation hangar and indeed contracts. That's kind of all you need. You can search, you can put it up at your local station and everyone just searches locally on contracts to see what's available for sale, or just ask in alliance chat and stuff like that. It's not ideal, but I just don't really see the need for nullsec markets at this point. Regional buying and sell orders, I think there needs to be something done that moves trade between the different areas. But as I said, that could be done easily by making each region, each station within a region, actually something that is, lower tax for particular items, have a meaning to actually move between. That also really helps the hauling industry out, because you might decide you don't really want to fly all the way from Pater down to like Berai or wherever to pick up your railguns or drones, so instead you get them delivered, and oh look, you're paying a hauler. Moving on. Will there be in near future a content update for lower tech levels? Thanks for your interest in the beginner's content, says Melos. In the near future there will be more beginner's goal guidance added, and the existing tutorial missions will also be optimised. Now this is a really disappointing answer because it just doesn't answer the question at all. The question is, will there be a content update for lower tech levels? And I feel that that really is more like, are we going to get more lower tech level ships, more stuff for lower tech players to do? And Melos's answer there is basically, we consider the lower tech levels to just be the tutorial to get you to tech 10, and that is disappointing. Look, I'm aware that the tech system is here to stay. I'm aware that Tech 10 is always going to be sort of the aimed end game, but the idea that balance and content updates are going to solely be aimed there at existing players does seem a little bit sort of disappointing, and that beginners content, newer player content is just tutorial based. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into that, especially since we've just had a big sort of revamp to the whole beginners tutorial and stuff like that. Clearly NetEase are keen to get new players on board. I just think that it's not just the tutorial that they need more meaningful content on the grind up as well. I've said before, we in Void will take Tech 4, Tech 5, Tech 6 players out on PvP roams. You can fly something like a Condor 2, a Stabber Fleet issue, some of these cheaper, easy to fly ships. Heck, even Destroyer roams is something we do fairly frequently. So we help our players out in PvP, and if you're going into PvE, yes, even though it's a Tech 10 ratting system, come and join us in something like a frigate, a destroyer, or a cruiser, have fun, blow some stuff up, earn some ISK that way, and we'll help you out having fun and just enjoying the game. Same with exploration and all this kind of thing. But I think that ultimately there is this worry that if you're a Tech 5, Tech 6 player and you've just joined an alliance and you're like, what can I really do? My mining's not good enough to keep up, my combat abilities aren't really much, and I've heard horror stories of corporations and alliances basically just ignoring their lower tech players because, oh, you're not as useful. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. They're actually arguably more useful than your older players who are more likely to drop off at a moment's notice. The newer players are the ones that you're cultivating to try and fit your corporation, your alliance, your empire, and they are the new blood that is going to keep things going. Definitely, I would like to see more lower tech level content. I think we should be getting more ships in lower tech levels. I think we should have balance patches for those ships in lower tech levels. I think there does need to be more meaningful content that people can do other than just ratting a few early exploration sites in high sec. I don't know what kind of content you would add, but I think there does need to be more for lower levels. And I think even just balancing things, as I talked about with industry earlier, just having a meaningful ore sink to make mining actually viable at low levels again would be pretty cool. I think ultimately anomalies and ratting are in a good place, especially for lower tech players. They can stick to high sec, move out into low sec for certain encounters. In fact, I think they're all in high sec now, aren't they? Up to tech level 8, I think it's the first time you come into low sec. So up to tech level 7, you're able to solo all these different anomalies and things anyway. You've got content there for ratting, just not really industry, and exploration's a bit sort of hit and miss in high sec, but hey, that's another story for another time. Let's move on to the third and final question. Yes, as I said, I'm disappointed. There are only 3 questions here. Please make it easier to tell the difference between the data bank items. It'll be much easier to tell them apart if there was an icon for each of the 3 different types: combat, signature recognition, and industry efficiency. Adding a blast icon on the combat core, a scanning symbol for the signature core, and a factory icon on the industry data core will help people avoid spending millions of ISK on the wrong data bank. The same goes for the computing chips. Thanks. First things first, sorry, if you're spending millions of ISK, double check. I don't want to be a victim blamer here, but double check. You cannot always blame the game for you making a monumental cock-up and going, oh, well, it wouldn't be like this if XYZ. You should learn to double check before you buy or sell anything. Make sure you have the right number of zeros, so you're not selling a 1 billion ISK ship for 100 million. That is a big difference in value. And vice versa. If you're buying stuff, make sure it is the right thing that you're buying. I've been guilty of this myself. Heck, we all know the story of Captain Benzie fitting a Mala with small armor repairers, then going into the combat section of the video and going, oh, well, it must be my skills that are at fault here, because this should be tankier than it actually is. Not realizing I'd fit small armor repairers rather than medium armor repairers, because yeah, they use the same icon. Which does mean I do agree with this. Yes, I do think that reused and similar icons should be optimized. We saw this with things like the Afterburner and the Micro Warp Drive, which were basically an Afterburner and a Micro Warp Drive. Both used the Afterburner logo, just the Micro Warp Drive had a slightly whiter color scheme to the sort of trail effect, whereas now obviously a Micro Warp Drive has those concentric rings around it. It's clear which one's an Afterburner and which one's a Micro Warp Drive, and it was the same with warp stabilizers and inertial stabilizers. They both used that sort of warp stabilizer, looks like a steering wheel kind of thing. Now the inertial stabilizers have those cool spheres and stuff like that. We've seen this happen, even with turrets, but more does need to be done. Medium lasers, for example, there needs to be an obvious difference between a medium pulse laser and a medium beam laser. They shouldn't be using the same icons. If you look at like capital tiers, these are really cool because they are obviously different. You can tell the difference between a capital beam laser and a capital pulse laser. I think even at large you can tell the difference. Even at small you can, because one of them's got the barrel, one of them doesn't, but medium for some reason is still using the same icon, which it needs fixing. And yeah, I think that certainly things like here, they're talking about data banks, those could be changed up. I think a lot of these could just be customized and changed, and it can't be all that difficult. I know your art team's probably working on other things, but once again, this is kind of why I said capitals didn't need to come yet. People aren't really using capitals right now, and simply put, even small quality of life changes like this should have come first. Definitely, all this stuff here, like you see, like trade and fixing the trade system, fixing mining, fixing industry, even things like lower tech level content, all of this should have happened before these new big flashy ships are added, but they're here now. All I can hope is that NetEase listen to our cries and do push that balance patch forward. We need some meaningful fixes, not just like, little patch notes here and there that are, oh, we've optimized this and we've slightly changed that. No, we need sweeping changes across the board. We need balance to destroyers, we need interceptors to be nerfed, we need explorer frigates to get their third mid slot, we need exploration to actually be something viable and worth doing. We need to have a look at an entire branch of ships that just... So, as an example of what I'm trying to get at here is, look at the Talwar, look at the Corax. Why would you ever fly a Corax? The Talwar is hands down better in every meaningful way. Why would you ever fly a Thrasher Interceptor, an Executioner Interceptor, or an H1 Interceptor when the Condor 2 Interceptor is just by far the best of those four options? There's no meaningful choices here, other than, oh, it's what I've skilled into. I like the look of lasers, so I'm flying an Executioner, I guess. Well, no, you could just respec or heck even train into missiles, small missile skills isn't it? But you get my point. You get my point that there are a whole bunch of ships out there that are just ultimately useless, and they're useless because of the skills. The Blackbird is a key one here. Why would you ever fly a Blackbird other than for the guidance disruption bonuses? Because there's nothing better about them. Okay, I lie. The fact that you can fit large rapids onto a Blackbird is kind of cool, and certainly a niche use, but when you look at a Bellicose and a Blackbird side by side, the Blackbird, it just doesn't stack up, because it's got bonuses to ECM, which does not exist in EVE Echoes. Congratulations, NetEase, you gave a ship a bonus to something that doesn't even exist. This is the kind of shit that needs fixing as soon as possible, and I'm absolutely appalled to hear that NetEase is planning to do a balance patch in April or May. That is too far away. There is too much that needs fixing to push it back and push it back and push it back. Even if you just decide that, right, okay, we're going to do a half of that in January and the other half in May, I'd be fine with that. We just need something. We just need something, and it sucks waiting 12 months for a bloody balance patch to come along. Anyway, that's me ranting about this week's developer Q&A. I am also, I'm going to be honest, disappointed at the selection of questions here. There's nothing really exciting, and the answers are very much along the lines of, thanks, but we're not intending to do that. Thanks, but we're just going to be doing something different. And thanks, we're, kind of making some items up, eventually. Where are the meaningful questions? Where's the big information about what's coming soon, about what meaningful balance we can have and all this kind of thing? It's great that the developers are actually, communicating at least with 3 questions a week. I'm also disappointed it's not 4, but hey, maybe that's just me and I can stretch this video out to the same length anyway, not that I'm trying to do that. People accuse me of stretching videos out. I really, really don't. It would be easier for me if I could make them shorter. I've just got a lot to say. Anyway, folks, thank you for watching this one right the way to the end. Let me know your thoughts and opinions regarding these questions in the comment section down below, and make sure to ask your own questions to the developers as well by clicking the link in the description to the Google document where you can ask questions, and if yours is one that is chosen, then congratulations, you will win a month of basic Omega in addition to getting your question answered and featuring in one of my super cool, fantastic, awesome videos. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching, happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.